I knew that I needed to get things out, right? I knew I
Mhm.
couldn't just forever hold everything inside and be well and preach wellness to my people, my staff, and expect them just to do what I wasn't doing. I'm a walk the walk, talk the talk kind of guy, right? I was testing her out, and
Yes, he
she,
was.
you
He
know,
was.
I mean, I was, but it was like our first session was really good. And I was just like, okay, well, this is way better than I anticipated.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Ashlee.
I think this might be, is this our first repeat?
Yeah, besides your dad, right?
Yeah, which he never counts for anything. So this is like a pretty big deal that we definitely wanted you back on. So introduce who we got here with us.
I will introduce him. We have my chief deputy back and we are excited. So if you guys remember it's been a while now.
Yeah.
Episodes ago, he was on kind of talking about admin and what that looks like in terms of leadership and mental health and all the things that we're trying to implement here together. But also, one of the episodes that Jennifer and I did, we stressed EMDR heavily, and something that Chief is incredible about is sharing his experience with EMDR. So we thought it would be cool to have him back on because not only is he going to help us navigate a little bit of the personal side of EMDR, but we also have some exciting news to share.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if I want to start the whole EMDR conversation. You could at least lead me to the water.
Oh, don't worry. We'll lead you right there and
Okay,
you're
perfect.
gonna drink up. Well, I'm excited that you're back. We had a lot of great feedback about your last episode. And, I think it takes a lot to be in leadership and say, hey, there's bridges that we really want to bridge together. Like, we're not the enemy. We're trying to figure this out in the best way possible. I definitely appreciated like your fever for reading and the research that you do on leadership and trying to find that information. So I think that that's powerful. And I think you guys are feeling that up there, right? Like obviously, and anything that's hard, there's always growing pains, but it sounds like your guys' work is really paying off some.
Yeah, I just wish the reading was more contagious. I like to ask them to read a lot of books, so they get a little angry with me when I'm pushing books on them all the time. So
Yeah.
they do some.
Yeah. Do they like audiobooks? I love an audiobook.
Yeah, and there's times where the author is not so
Say less, say
palatable,
less.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
A voice of somebody reading a book can be
I might.
it can be hard sometimes.
But yeah, no, I think our program is actually we've been really working hard. So we have a lot of things that have started for us here. And Chief's been amazing helping us push that along. And I think I stress a lot too that it's different for our department because he is so hands-on, but in the most like beautiful way.
Yeah.
Like this is his baby. Like he truly wanted a mental health program for his people, which is inspiring and really encouraging.
much.
So him and I work very closely together to make sure these things happen, just kind of following his lead and making sure we get it done. But we just implemented neck up checkups.
Yeah, that was just started this year, and I think last report I got is they're filling up fast. The first report I got was like the 7th day of January, and all of February was filled.
Oh
So
my
that's
goodness, that's
encouraging. Yeah, it's
incredible.
encouraging.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a little bit bad for Doc Chi here, because she has a lot of appointments now, but that's the whole point of it, right?
I think she enjoys being
Yeah,
busy.
oh, yeah. She does.
I won't speak for you, Ashley. Sorry.
I do. I most definitely do.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, you said, this year, and I'm like, gosh, this year is not very old. So, I mean, that's incredible that all those things are happening. And I do want to just echo what Ashley said in terms of like, I can tell that you really care about your department and it is your baby in a way that's really, it's a beautiful thing for sure.
Yeah. So let's lead into something. A few months ago now, I had gotten a text from him and it said, hey, like, are you free in like 10 minutes? Because my life, it just runs on chief time. So I was like, I guess. And I went and we spoke to, what is it? The academy, right?
I was teaching Officer Wellness 2 for the state of Wisconsin at the Gateway Technical College Academy, and I was teaching suicide prevention. So I thought it was a great idea, and timing is, that's irrelevant, I think I gave her more than 10 minutes. Let's just, maybe like an hour and 10 minutes. But
Yes.
I said, hey, if you have some time, can you stop over? Because I would really love to introduce her. I had my own deputy candidates in there, recruits, and just to show other agencies, their recruits, like this is real, right? Because I preach it in the academy all the time. I talk about how the stigma is breaking, right? We're doing a really good job of breaking down those barriers, but it takes everybody to understand that it's okay to talk, right? It's okay. And as an administrator, and I probably spoke about this on the last one, is we have to break that stigma and we have to not worry about, well, what is it going to look like if I do talk to somebody about issues, right?
Right.
Am I going to get my job taken away? Am I going to get put on administrative duty? And like, the old, rubber gun squad or, desk duty.
Right.
We're trying to avoid all those stigmas. And I just thought, well, it's one thing coming from me, right? I'm a talking head up there. I said, well, let me bring in a professional who can, really give you guys the clinician side of things and then just show the partnership that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. And I think what was cool for me, even though I was maybe stressed about it, was that I got to see him interact with them, right? But what I love, because it's something that I push a lot, is that he was just a human to them. Right? It's easy to be admin, I think, across the board, but that's not what he did. And so something that I realized really quickly was that he was very open with them about his own personal life, right? And I think that's the way we connect with people. And if we're not open and vulnerable, then we're not proving our point. And so he had shared with his class about his own experience of doing EMDR. And I thought that was super powerful. And then I was like, oof, I'm going to put him on the spot on this podcast, because I think what's really important to recognize, and I don't want to steal your thunder with your story of EMDR, but EMDR isn't always about the things on the job, right? Like Jennifer, you and I talk about this. Yes, there's critical incidents from the job that we do work on, but like mostly, and a lot of the times, it's our personal lives that come onto this career before we're, even doing it. So I want to know, Chief, if you are open to giving us, you don't have to give us great detail, but if you're willing to kind of maybe explain at first if you were interested in EMDR, or kind of what was that push for you to actually do it?
I had known nothing about EMDR before I started counseling, right? I had no idea. I heard it was a TikTok trend,
Oh
but
my
seriously, I was like, not on TikTok, but I think my daughter may have said, hey, have you heard this? And then I'm like, no. And I didn't pay any attention to it. So going through therapy and, my laundry list of things that I'm very open, like Ashlee said, like I try to make sure that my students, even my employees, know that I'm a human, right? We're all human beings first. Like I don't like even using my title. I don't need my employees calling me in just a general setting. They don't need to use chief deputy, right? They can call me by my first name, whatever. If we're obviously in a board setting or like where there's other professionals that are from the county or the other agencies, then sure, it's appropriate, right? But in terms of my students, like the state gives us material, and that material is, they've been in lecture after lecture after lecture in that first, couple. At first, phase one is all lecture, right? And then they start to get out and do things. And then they come back into the classroom in phase three, and that's the last of their academy before they graduate. And this is one of the topics is Officer Wellness 2, suicide prevention. So in the past, when I've taught this before EMDR, I'll kind of just give the history, right? I have plenty of stories. I was in the Navy, right? I was a psych tech, but I think that you made a good point about it's not just everything that builds up in this job. It's other things in your life too that build up. And when I talk about wellness, I talk about wellness as it's not just one little thing inside of the bucket, right? It's if you're not well financially, that's bad.
Yep.
Right? If you're not well spiritually, if you're not well, everything builds up, and you can't just concentrate on just mental health, just finance, just physical wellness, just diet, right? Everything has to be in harmony. So when I talk to them, I like to give them personal experiences. And some of the feedback we get from the recruits is like some of the instructors just come in and tell war stories, right? About their time on the street.
Oh, yep.
When I pulled the guy over, when I did this, right? But I don't, and I could just be looking at myself through rose-colored glasses, but I think when you make yourself a real human being and you show them that you also have issues, even in whatever position you have, it kind of brings the points home better, right? Than just like them watching a video of ex-PD, some officer just up there on the screen talking about their issues and how it affected them. I'm real to them because I'm their instructor. They have seen me now for at least 9 weeks, and they've seen all kinds of different sides of me. Well, now I'm about to get real, and tell them all about the mental struggles that I've had in this profession. And they don't all just come from this profession. So in the past classes, my mom passed away in 2009. And in the past classes, I've had suicides in my life of loved ones, ex-fiance killed herself, like a lot of different levels of trauma, right?
Right.
My mom had cancer and she fought it. She was a fighter. She fought it and beat cancer twice. And this on the
Wow.
third time, she wasn't willing to die, right?
Yeah.
She didn't have anything lined up for death, nothing. She refused. So when my mom passed away, I knew that at some point, right? But she fought and won so many times that I didn't ever think it would really happen.
Mm-hmm.
And she was 53 when she passed away.
Oh, so young.
Super young,
So young.
right?
Yeah.
So I struggled with a lot of things. We had some marital issues at that time because I just gave up on God, you know, and I don't want to speak too much religion, but
You're
I gave up on God because I didn't understand, right? I was like, okay, my mom she had her demons, right? But she was angelic compared to my dad, right?
Mhm.
And if my dad ever watches this, you know what you did. You'll be fine. I was questioning faith and like, why my mom, why so young? My son had just been born. He was 3 months old. My daughter was 3, and like my mom was like, her love language was gift giving, right?
Yeah.
That's just what was her thing. So my little girl, I had everything at that time from my mom.
Mhm.
And my mom
Right.
was in New Mexico at the time. So we didn't have like a super,
Oh,
like we didn't get to see each other as much as we wanted to, but she called me every day, you know.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when she was actually back home for a family reunion, when she really started taking a downfall, and she was going through a specialized treatment out in New Mexico where they were doing a trial, like laser, like zapping the tumors off with a laser.
Mhm.
They thought it was going well, but they told her not to travel. Strong-headed, she had to come home because there was a family reunion and she
Yeah.
Exactly.
so when she was home, she had a couple episodes where I had to bring her to the ER. The final episode at the ER, they told me she cannot travel back. She needs to stay. Like she can't travel. Okay. I mean, she was basically, we had to like push her around in a wheelchair. So that day that she passed away, she was sitting in my recliner in my home and she was holding my son, right? They were just sleeping together in a recliner and she was incontinent, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and I'm like, is Owen's diaper leaking?
Owen's
You
gonna
know?
be
Yeah.
so mad.
Yeah. But it wasn't. It was my mom, right?
Mhm.
And their flight was literally like 3 hours later. Like they had to leave my house in 3 hours. And my aunt and my grandma were with it. And my aunt was very adamant that she goes home. She has to go home. She has treatment. I'm like, the doctor said she can't go home. And
Mhm.
she forced her. My mom couldn't even ambulate. She's yelling at my mom to get out of the house. You need to go. We have to catch our flight. And I'm fighting with them just to keep, I said, I will take care of her. Just leave her here. And my grandma didn't want to leave. So it was just a hot mess.
Oh, how the dynamics there. I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
And
Yeah.
so they ended up leaving. She passed away on the flight.
Oh.
And they had to make an emergency landing in Denver to wheel her off, you know. And the real point of that is I couldn't tell that story in the academy because I couldn't even talk about my mom.
Right.
You know, the things I cried about all the time, like it's not fair, like that my kids will never know what their grandma looks like as an old woman, right? Like
Mhm.
I always wonder, like, what would my mom look like? And knowing my mom, she would try to stay blonde and you know, tan and everything else. So I couldn't tell those stories, right? I would tell all the other stories, but I couldn't touch on that because, and I cried in front of the recruits before,
Mhm.
but if I tried to tell that story, I couldn't even get past that. I just would like to know what my mom would look like as an old lady and
Yeah.
just be like, I couldn't go forward. One of many things that led me to counseling with Doc Chi. And when, you know, she made me make my list of all my traumas in life. And so I brought the 27 pages in and
So he's not kidding. Actually, I don't know how many pages though. But
you know, I wrote down everything from basically my childhood to where we were currently sitting. There was a lot, right? And she picked up on because she's smart. And she's like, all right, we need to do this EMDR on your mom. And she's like, you will? And I'm like, yeah, I'll try anything, whatever, let's go. I had no idea what I was getting into or what I was going to do, right? And she hands me these two little Nintendo joystick. And I'm like, okay, so, and she explained everything well. And she's like, let me know if you need a break. And she walked me through it, the process, right? And they're vibrating. And what I understand about it now is, right, it replicates REM sleep. And I don't,
Right.
you guys can
You're
explain
good.
the,
No, it's nice to hear it from you. You know what I mean?
it replicates
Oh,
them,
absolutely.
right? You lead me to things to think about and what to, bring you back to certain times and things like that. And I mean, I cried a lot, well, a lot. It was very difficult. It still is right inside, but like
Right.
to be able to talk about it without bawling, is pretty cool, I guess, for lack of a better term. My son's 16 now, and
Wow.
it's been what, 6, 7, 8 months since we did EMDR.
Yeah.
So to be able to sit and have these conversations that I'm able to have, I mean, I've had them, Dr. G will tell you, I have these conversations with anyone that will listen to me, because I think it's so important for people to understand how powerful that was. We were in there for 2 hours, easily 2 hours, and it felt like 20 minutes in terms of like time frame.
Right.
But I walked out of there and I mean, I was physically, mentally drained. I felt like I had just ran a marathon. I slept really good that night because I was just like, and I don't sleep. So,
I was just about to say, wait a minute.
but it was felt like there was a huge like boulder lifted off my shoulders just to go through that and talk about it. And when I tell other people that are interested in my story, she has certain patients that will come to me because they know I'm an open book and they'll ask me like, hey, what happened if you did this? Well, should I do it? And I always try to tell them, I'm like, look, we did it for what I thought was a really traumatic event and it didn't replicate, right? Just because I think something's traumatic, it doesn't necessarily mean it is in that world. And if I'm wrong, this is just a layperson looking
So
into it.
like it's that notion of, right, like we had to do the float back and get him to the point of like where this started, right? And so obviously everyone goes through their own process with EMDR, but it was one of those things where like until we kind of healed his younger self and some of those things that happened then, and mom being a big part of that, we weren't going to make huge progress on the now. It's everyone's journey is a little bit different, obviously. And Jennifer, you can speak to that as well.
Now
Absolutely.
I don't have any issue.
Okay.
Well, I didn't realize this happened not that long ago. Like, I really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, you would not know it, right? We're like two besties. You would never know.
So let me ask, did you have any apprehension of like, or I need to know every detail of what EMDR is before me to try, or?
I think she gave me the Cliff Notes version, and I was like, I worked in psych, right? And it was a long time ago, so things change. And Dr. and I joke all about the old catatonic shuffle and all those things. And I've seen pretty much everything in the psych world, just from being my training to working in this law enforcement is mental health, right? We're part social worker, we're part law enforcement, and my correctional officers are even more so. Mental health specialists without the title, right? So I wasn't necessarily afraid of the process itself. I was more afraid of like what happened, basically me being a bubbling little crybaby in front of, somebody that I know. Well, we didn't really even know each other that well then. I mean, she had just kind of been introduced to the agency, and I started seeing her because one, I know I'm broken. Right. I've seen other therapists after the riots, after COVID, right? The county had offered some sessions and they were okay. I wasn't life-changing or anything like that, but I knew that I needed to get things out, right? I knew I couldn't just forever hold everything inside and be well and preach wellness to my people, my staff, and expect them just to do what I wasn't doing. I'm a walk the walk, talk the talk kind of guy, right? I was testing her out.
Yes,
and
he was. He was.
I mean, I was, but it was like our first session was really good. And I was just like, okay, well, this is way better than I anticipated. And then it was only our second session before we went right into EMDR.
Yeah, I was pretty pushy with him. I was like, we're not going to spend, he's clever, he's intelligent, right? I had to be a little bit more direct and like, no, we're going to do this. We're doing these things because he can talk circles around me too sometimes. So I definitely was a little bit more, obviously gauge everybody, but I knew he was ready. Not only that, but he hits it on the head when he says, for me, I'm sure there was the nervousness of like, what is this going to look like? But if I'm going to be telling my people to do it, right? Like I should do it myself. And that's what I love about him.
That's not in the stuff that the state gives us, right? They don't give me EMDR. They don't give me the moral injury,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, and so I'm like putting this stuff, I just add things. I'm not allowed to take anything out of the curriculum, but I can add things, right? So anything that I can give the next generation that won't make them look at talking to someone or wellness and as a whole in a bad light, I mean, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
feed, right?
Well, and I want to reflect this, and I think the power in you saying, you know, if I'm going to ask anybody to do anything, like I have to be willing to do that myself. I mean, that's a great leadership characteristic, but also just the power I appreciate of you being here. And, you know, I know you reach your community so intensely, and I just hope this reaches more people. I am always amazed, and I can sit and give the best sales pitch about EMDR and say, like, I have seen it transform people and people letting go of a horrific tragedy that was haunting them, or again, an experience of when we were young and didn't realize, man, I've been holding on to that for a long time. And be so, again, like a sales pitch, explaining every detail of neuroscience in terms of what's happening with EMDR. And there can be some real hesitations. And yet, when I've been involved in programs where other first responders talk about their EMDR experience, like how they are ready to jump into the deep end to say, well, if so and so said they had a good response. And it's so amazing to me because I'm like, you know, I mean, I'm a pretty honest person. I'm telling you, like, this works. And yet there's still some hesitation about, well, I don't know, like, what is this? Is it too woo-woo? Is it hypnotizing me? Like, all these things. And I think sometimes it is about, and I think such a unique cultural part of first responders is just saying, like, hey, if another first responder, they get it. Jennifer doesn't get it. She's not a first responder. But if I hear this first responder who has this experience and gets it, I think that's really powerful. And I feel like I want to ask a question in that. What do you guys think about that in terms of reaching first responders?
So I think my story has gotten out there to people because my old chief deputy calls this the closet of secrets, you know, I do a lot of counseling in my office, right? And I've had at least 10 people in this agency come over and ask me about EMDR. And I tell them exactly, I actually probably go into more detail, you know. I do believe that. I think there's always been this fear in our profession, in first responders professions. I mean, I think maybe the firefighters are a little better at it because they're the huggy feely ones, right? They can, you know, stand in the corner with a boot and fill it up with cash. You know, I always say, like, yeah, I mean, great.
We love our firefighters.
Yeah,
too.
we have to, you know, they have to
Right.
always take their.
I always say they check the right box, we check the wrong one. So I mean, they're a little, but I think they do better, like the debriefing and all those type of things, right? And there's always been this, and I can only speak for my agency, obviously, but there's always been this fear of feelings or talking about things that are outside of the box, if you will. We said lieutenant interviews yesterday, and these conversations had come up, not necessarily about EMDR, about the culture and having to shift the culture for the new generation. And in the new generation, they want to talk, right? They want to be heard. They want to know that you see them. And I think this is part of the change, right? And I can say that as reflecting over my time in leadership is I've tried to change, right? I have to be malleable to the changing of the ways. And that's what I try to preach to my leaders here is like, you cannot stay status quo. When they don't want to read my books that I like, that's fine, but go find something else then.
Right.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks, but the old dogs need to want to learn the tricks or do something to be better. Otherwise, it's not going to work, right? You know, you can't stay status quo. So the discussions were had about that and just changing things. And what was said was our SWAT members actually understand debriefs the best because they debrief everything, right? That's your hardest population to get feelings out of in our agency, right? Because you know they right, they need to that's just, they're kind of driven to that, but then they'll debrief with each other, but getting them to open up outside of that little circle is tougher. So what I said to them is like, okay, well, let's think about that. And like, how do we make that come out, right? How do we get them to debrief outside of their little clique or circle? And I don't have the answer to that, but it's just something that I'm thinking about. And I took over the captain of detentions in 2016, late 2016. We had a lot of critical incidents in the jail, which most do, right? I wasn't doing anything. Like, there was no plan for our staff. Luckily, we had a chaplain on board at the time who happened to be trained in critical debriefs. But I can tell you, when I first started doing them, it was like 1-2 people in there. And of course, I went against the cardinal rule. I sat in them, which then I learned, because he didn't know, right? But I learned that I can't be in there. Right. Even though I was a part of the critical incident, because, I was there for them and everything, that debrief is different, right? So, and then I had to train my leaders, my supervisors, right? You can't be in there, right? We'll do a separate one for you guys or you gals, right? And once we broke that out, then people started showing up at debriefs. Well, then that chaplain retired, and then that fell off. So it takes the village, right?
Yeah.
The entire agency, all my administration, all my leaders have to be on the same page, and they get sick of hearing me preach, I guarantee it, or talk about these type of things, all the time. I feel like my 74-year-old father, right? I tell them the same story over and over, but it's with the hope that they end up, the light comes on and they're like, oh my gosh. And even if I'm gone and that light comes on afterwards, I'm just trying to plant seeds, right? Because I'm not going to fix everything in the next X amount of years that I'm here. 9 months to 2 years and 9 months. So,
but who's counting, huh?
But who's counting?
Not me, because he can't leave. I was just going to say, I do think it speaks volumes to, like, they've never had neck of checkups, right? So those are the yearly mental health check-ins. And a ton of departments now across the United States do them. Fire, police, and some it's mandatory, some it's voluntary, whatever. But this is our first year running them. And so I think it speaks volumes to what we're trying to do and make that change when people are actually signing up. It is a brand new concept to everybody. And yet we have a lot of people on board, which is a beautiful thing. And I think sharing his story, being open to doing things like this, and being really active at his department with just being a human is why that's happening so much. So,
and there is a fine line with me being an administrator, and it's hard, right? Because we talked about that the first time I was on, right? We're not the beast, right? I know, like, and in some agencies, I can't speak for that, right? But I hope that my message, whoever listens to this, or like when we go to this conference, right, we'll be able to show that this is a partnership that has to happen all across the world, not just law enforcement agencies in the United States, but everywhere. That partnership has to happen, and there can't be a us versus them in terms of how my employees look at me. And I have such a different relationship with all of my younger deputies because I see them at the academy every year, right? They understand that I'm Justin, I'm not chief deputy, and I'm in the classroom, instructor Miller, right? Whatever. They end up seeing the human side of me, and I hope, and I always tell them, I hope that lets you come and just talk to me whenever you want. And I would say that it's working because my door is always shadowed by somebody, which you can't say that, right? You hear people say all the time, I have an open door policy, but then they don't talk to people.
But these are my hours.
That's a good one. That's a good one, Jennifer.
I think that vulnerability is a huge piece of it. And, I really would love your feedback about this, because I think that training as a first responder is about protecting all your vulnerabilities. It's about your gear and your equipment and how to respond in a way that you're not vulnerable. And then there's this aspect of mental wellness and mental health where, what I ask a client to do who meets with me is to be vulnerable. And that being said, I've been interrogated by first responders, our first sessions and things. And I respect that. Like, I'm a complete stranger. Don't come and tell me your life story if you don't feel comfortable with that. But I think that is, and I think the EMDR process is one about vulnerability and exploration. And I do think that takes incredible courage. And there are some things that feel really out of control sometimes with our feelings, which kind of locks up our vulnerability. Like, it feels like I need to control that more than recognizing, hey, and in this experience, I think what you described about being just emotionally drained, exhausted, that's such a cathartic, like, floodgates are open. And we're free from it though. Like it's not that, oh, I feel that dam back up and I'm building all these bricks. It's like, no, EMDR is about like letting those things go and being able to kind of shift your brain in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's night and day. And you asked me a question, and as you were just explaining that, it made me think of something about the confidentiality. I think that's what scares
Yep.
everybody, not just first responders, everybody. And I think I had the cheat code for that because I worked in psych, right? I understood that it's not, and I've told Ashlee, right? Therapists need therapy too. When I was in the mental health field and I worked in inpatient psych, we had the keys, the inmates, or the inmates, the patients didn't, right? That was always the joke. Well, we have the keys. That's the only difference between them and us, right? But it was even back then when I was in the Navy, it was, if you walked out of the psych ward and walked into the clinical side to get therapy, everybody would talk about it, right? So nobody did it. I was lucky to have a very good doctor there that I've seen back room, if you will, right? And it's just they like, and that's one thing I preach from my standpoint as administrator is the confidentiality. And what I preach to my supervisors is it only takes one time for you to slip with something that it's going to ruin this whole program. And I know Ashlee probably, she looks at me a little bit out of the corner eye sometimes because I speak freely about pretty much everything, right? I don't have have anything to hide, right? And you talked about the training aspect, right? And I don't train any of the hut stuff or I don't do like defense and arrest actors. I always say I train the mind and the heart, the stuff that I train, because that's my passion. They made me a firearms instructor, and let me just tell you, it's a joke around here because
You couldn't hit the
I'm
broadside
not a
with barn.
firearms guy. I mean, I have them, but it's not my passion, right?
Right.
My passion is wellness in the mind and heart, and just making sure that ethics is my passion, because you always have to do the right thing. I give them the cheat code to not get fired. I said, don't lie, you won't ever get fired, right? Well, there's many other things you can do, but so I think that's the difference with me and opening up Doc G is that I wasn't, even if there wasn't a confidentiality slip, I don't care. I personally don't, but every other person does. Right. And we have to make sure we protect that personal nature of that relationship between a clinician and their patient.
I mean, I tell clients the first time I meet them, I mean, confidentiality is the only thing I offer you. Because you can go talk to a friend, you can, obviously I have training and other things, but that truly is the foundation, the cornerstone of therapy is to say whatever you share with me will stay here, that nobody else is ever going to know, hear, have this information, unless three things. She told me you're going to harm somebody, harm yourself, or any concern about a child's safety. But that's
So with law
it.
enforcement, all you have to say is like a shall arrest, because they know that, right? There's only a few things you shall arrest on, right? There's only things that I shall lose your confidentiality on.
Exactly. And I unfortunately think sometimes that's not emphasized enough. And so I appreciate you bringing up that confidentiality. It's important. It's Vegas rules, like what's said here stays here kind of thing.
It's probably the most important thing for this program to succeed, other than doing the work, right? But without confidentiality or the perception, right? And I've had to break that perception a few times already within our short period of being a program is I don't know nothing. I don't want to, unless you sit in my chair and tell me something. But even if that happens, I'm not telling your story unless you want me to. I'll be more than welcome. And Doc G's not my first guest in suicide prevention. I've brought officers, detectives that have had things going on in their lives, and they want to come and make sure that those new officers understand that alcoholism is real, that drug abuse is real, right? So I just wanted to kind of validate what I was telling them with a professional. She's like, you already said everything.
Well, so in this, your passion being, wellness, the mind, the heart, which I just want to come back to, it's like a way to protect those things is again, this vulnerability and just really reinforce that. But I think that leads to, a kind of a bigger platform in terms of wellness. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about your guys' exciting news, if we could talk some about that.
Yeah, so we're going to present together at the International Law Enforcement Educators and Trainers Conference So it's ILETA in March. It's March 16th through the 21st. It's in St. Louis. Not the greatest time to go to St. Louis, but it has really good food. So I'm a foodie. But
Yeah, we're super excited. I think that it's just another step in the right direction, right? Like, and
Well,
go ahead.
can we back up and
yeah,
just kind of share a little bit of like how this little seed was planted? And maybe I did hear Ashlee messages of like, we have to get a proposal together ASAP. And
Again, the hey, I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. Yeah, Ash, I'm gonna give you 10
it was
minutes.
now
actually
tell us the story
a
a little
little less
bit.
than 24 hours. But so I've been involved with ILETA for over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
It is the biggest training conference. So it's a conference for all law enforcement trainers to get training. There's breakout sessions. You can get certified in things. You can go to live fire. There's a vendor hall. Like everybody's there. Everybody, the who's who of who do you want to buy your stuff, or what kind of cool equipment, do you want to give them, to education, mental health. She'll see probably some mental health like platforms. Like we have Cortico. There's all these different apps that you can use and things like that. It really is because it's born out of our agency. The founder of ILETA is from Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
Rich Hayden, who was a old drug unit lieutenant, has been a part of it since inception. He wasn't the founder, but his best friend was. They did a lot of training. I can't think of his name right now of the founder, but Rich Hayden retired 2 years ago, and my old training sergeant, Sergeant Ray Merlin, is now one of the directors, or
Wow.
the director. So we've always had, it's always been something, even though it's international, it truly is. We've had, last year was Germany. The year before we had Romanian agencies there. I met a gentleman who's there every year from Italy. He's a really good trainer, and we become friends. It's just a really good networking in terms of training and just getting to know what's out there for that. And they've been begging me to do leadership or wellness training. I get nervous about, like, you're going in front of trainers, right? It's one thing being in front of recruits, and I'm probably gonna be freaking Ashlee out here a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is good. Here we go.
And as a trainer going to a training conference, right? What do? We sit there and we're like, well, you could have did that better. You could have did this better, right? That wasn't that great. But as I've grown in even that conference, it's not about you, it's really not about you. And you don't do that to your shipmates, if you will, because I was in the Navy, but
Of course, I knew where that reference was.
you just build them up. You give them good feedback, constructive criticism. How can they make it better? Because a lot of these guys and gals are return trainers. So, but they want new and innovative things every year. So when Ashlee and I originally talked about it, I wasn't thinking about the training aspect, right? I wanted to spread the word about our program, right? The title of our program was going to be called The Beauty and the Admin Beast, right? The Beauty and the Admin Beast, right? And just because talk about that, because like last time I was on, right, with the administrators always getting the bad name.
Yeah.
And so that was going to be the title, but it didn't fit because they need something. How can the trainers go back and train their agencies? So we had to adjust on the fly. And when I say fly, I mean like Mach speed.
Oh, I'm
So
again familiar. Was talking to Ashlee that morning and like, this is due tonight.
we got it done.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
you did.
Yeah, well, and obviously it was in March when it was happening. I think that was in October that it was due.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we have so much time. It's not even until March. It was just by half chance. I literally just like looked it up, when's the deadline, and it was that next morning. And obviously knowing the folks, and Joe Willis is one of the directors too, and he's a big wellness fanatic. I would say somebody that I wish that I could train like, because he has like that photographic mind. He doesn't need any props, no PowerPoint. Like he's just right, just knows his material, which I probably do. I don't give myself enough credit.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's nice to hear you say
But-
that.
Just do that.
But he was really good. But anyways, he's in charge of all the proposals. So I'm like, hey, can I get a day or two extension? He's like, well, just give me something. So we did. We're going to be there, and they changed the format a little bit this year. So we have one session. We have 4 hours to give our message to whoever shows up, and it's well attended.
Yeah, internationally. I mean, from all over the world.
1,000 folks that will be in attendance, not necessarily to ours, but because we have competing minds that they want to hear, but they don't know yet. But so,
Yeah.
so if we go the following year, there'll be 1,000 people.
Yes, there will. So tell me the title that we landed on and like what your wait, we don't have a title yet.
Yeah, he's got to pull it up. But
Okay.
I think from my like point of view though too, when you ask that question, like he's more logistical of how this kind of came about. But to be honest, everything we've just talked about on this podcast is why this came about. Right. So there's a lot of beauty in the work that he's done and the teamwork that we're doing together and just the excitement, I think, to hopefully share. I mean, I think him and I both get along so well because we're both driven in the same way and we want to make change. And so being able to utilize his story, some of the background stuff that I know, and just really come together to help others implement at their departments is a huge goal that we both have. So that's why on my end that this whole conference came around as well.
Well, I'm so excited. And I think When the Call Hits Home is so excited to be a part
Oh, that's right. Didn't even talk about that. The biggest part. Sorry, everybody. Some very exciting news is that at this conference, we get to podcast live. So like When the Call Hits Home is going to be pretty active throughout the week at this conference, which is going to be bringing a lot of information to everybody who listens. And this guy next to me, well, I guess they won't be able to see him, but Chief here will be kind of stepping in and hosting.
Yes. So we are excited. And I think it's incredible, and I want to say, just kind of as Ashlee said for you, Chief, but I want to say for Ashlee, I think, Ashlee, your passion and your drive is really a part of why When the Call Hits Home gets to be a part of this conference. And again, I think to take what you guys are doing at your agency and saying, hey, this is what's really working for us. See if it works for you. I think is great. I think it's really powerful when we have something and we want to share it. I think sometimes we have things and we want to hoard it or say, well, you got to buy this curriculum if you want to do it, instead of realizing like, hey, there's plenty, like this stuff can be shared. It's a real fire.
No, I'm actually more excited about the podcasting than
I
present, to be honest. I'm a little ADD, just a touch, right? And so that's an understatement. I get it. I'm like, hey, we could have like guests. I was like, I could set up just like super cool people to come on and talk that have the same passion as us. And we could show your listeners right, that it's not just in Kenosha, Wisconsin, but I mean, and they probably know that.
Somebody from Italy.
I mean, how badass that When the Call Hits Home is going to have that stuff on there, like
yeah.
So I'm really excited about that, to be honest.
Well, I'm excited about y'all's passion and efforts, and I am so excited that When the Call Hits Home is going international. So.
Hey, we got to give you the title of our, because we went from
Beauty and the Beast
and the admin beast, in which everybody who knew that was like, Ashlee, you have to change his mind. And I was like, he's committed.
I was
pretty nervous on that one. He was pretty committed, and I was like, ooh, okay. But what is it? Tell me.
I was gonna the introduction to that.
What?
To our thing was I was gonna have them guess which one of us are admin. Crisis response training, bridging clinical and administrative perspectives. So that is what we landed on.
I love it.
Much more
professional.
Very professional.
I mean,
and then like there's a little bit of an age gap, no offense, Chief. And so my brain, every time he says that, goes to the Justin Bieber song. Does anybody, is it Beauty and a Beat? No, nobody knows this. And I was like, well, I can't get over that.
I was gonna wear my yellow dress, so.
Goodness gracious.
Can I just make a comment, since you did try to roast our firefighters, pun intended? I think your mustache, Chief. I mean, people might think you're trying to cosplay a firefighter with that.
Listen, they copy us. It's fine.
Oh my.
I do it, and since we're roasting, I do admire them for being able to sleep and play video games and eat and just wait.
All right, Ashlee, go ahead.
Edit, put this in the edit. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no, we're really excited, like, for everything that's coming, for real. And thank you for sharing your story.
Yes, and thank you for coming back and giving your time again. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Jennifer, you got anything you want to sign off on?
No, just appreciate everybody.
All right. Well, when the call hits home, Jennifer and I are here for you. Thank you guys and stay tuned. We're super pumped. About this.
Bye.
All right. Bye.